All right, now look, today I'm gonna show y'all how I make Nigerian style beef stew. I have a 3-pound chuck roast here that I'm gonna break down into cubes. I'm using 12 ounces of tomato paste, 2 large cubes of the Maggi chicken bouillon, 6 Roma tomatoes, 2 large red onions. I have a variety of peppers here, 1 large shallot. I'm going to be using habaneros in this recipe, but you can absolutely use Scotch bonnet. A sweet Vidalia onion, garlic, bay leaves, thyme, curry powder, salt. You see that? You see that? You see that? Don't ask me for the damn ingredient list. Now, come on, Chad. We got to cook. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to place all of my tomatoes, my peppers, except for if you're using Scotch bonnet or if you're using habanero, keep those to the side, but all of the red bell peppers, your other chilies, and your onions, we're going to place this in the oven preheated at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes or until there's a nice, beautiful char on them. So for this particular recipe, I'm going to be using 3 pounds of beef, and it really just depends on your grocery store. If you can find beef that's already cubed up and is decently priced, go ahead and do so. But I actually found it cheaper for me to just buy this roast and chop it down into cubes myself, which is also great because then that gives me the option to make them to be whatever size pieces that I want them to be. So I'm going to show you guys exactly about how big I'm going to make these cubes, and then that way I can kind of get them to be all about the even size. So this is about how big I want it to be. That's about the thickness. So I'm going to go in, chop all of this down, and I'll be back once it's all done. All right, so now that I've got my meat all nicely cubed up, I'm going to go on ahead and add that directly into a pot. And I'm going to cover this up. I'm going to start off with about 4 cups of water. I'm going to add in 1 large shallot. I'm going to add in a half a tablespoon of thyme, 1 teaspoon of curry powder, 1 teaspoon of pink Himalayan salt, some freshly ground black peppercorns. I'm going to go in and give this a mix. I'm going to bring this up to a boil. Once it comes up to a boil, I'm going to put the lid on this and set a timer for 15 minutes. I just wanted to point out that these red onions that I got were gigantic, as you can see, so I'm only actually going to need 1. You want to end up with roughly about 2 cups worth of the minced red onion, and this is about the size that I've sliced them down to be. Alrighty, y'all. Y'all know I'm a big proponent of clean as you go, but I just wanted to show you I have everything laid out and ready to go. I have my 12 ounces of tomato paste. I'm a big believer that all tomato paste is not made equally, so please get yourself some high quality tomato paste. My onions, they are ready to go. I'm going to be using 2 habaneros. If you can get your hands on Scotch bonnet, absolutely do so. It's a different flavor profile, but both are still going to be delicious. My Maggi cubes right here, I'm going to use roughly about 2 to 3 of those. 6 large cloves of garlic, and then we're going to be adding in some additional curry powder, thyme, and bay leaves. We're going to leave the salt to the side because we'll taste it as we go. So I have all of that ready to go. I also have my basmati rice right here. I just finished making that. The timer just went off. This is what I'm going to be serving the Nigerian beef stew over. And then now let's come on over here. Now that this is coming up to a boil, I'm going to place the lid on this and set the timer for 15 minutes. Alrighty, now that we've got some beautiful char on our tomatoes and our peppers, I'm going to transfer these very carefully over to a large blender so that we can break all of this down. To the blender, I'm also going to add in the 6 large cloves of the garlic. And I'm also going to add in both of our peppers. I've went off and taken off the tops, but I did leave the seeds in. If you would like it to be less spicy, of course, to remove the seeds. Place the lid on and bring it on down. My God, if y'all could smell this, it just smells heavenly. This is about the consistency that you're looking for. You don't want it any thinner than that. Oh my God, the peppers and the roasted tomatoes, it just all smells heavenly. Our meat has now been boiling for about 15 minutes. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these cuts of beef from this stock, but I'm going to keep the stock in the pan. Do not throw that away. That is very important. That's what we're going to be using to thin out the tomato base in a few moments. This is honestly just part 1 of cooking this beef. We're going to be frying it off in a moment. And now that we've removed all the beef, now you're left with this super flavorful, super rich beef broth. Now, I've oftentimes found that in all of my research of watching videos on how people prepare this, I just feel like they do way too much with the oil. I'm going to start off with 1/4 of a cup of oil to shallow fry off the beef. And then if I need more oil, I will gradually add it in. But I would rather have to add oil than to take it away. Because again, oftentimes, even when I've eaten this dish, I just find that it's just way too oily, and this is a way to combat that. Alrighty, I'm now going to carefully add in all of our beef, and I'm going to shallow fry this until it's nice and dark brown. And whatever pan that you're going to be cooking the final dish in, that's the pan that you want to start this process in, because right now we're building lots of flavor. So again, just make sure that you're mixing it around. We're shallow frying it until it's golden. Well, not golden brown, but you know, it'll be nice and dark brown. I'll show you what it looks like in a few moments. This can take anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes. Alrighty, you guys, this is exactly what we want our beef to look like. So now I'm gonna go and take this out of this pot and just sit this beef to the side for right now until it's time to add it back in a little bit later on. And as you guys can see, there's no need for me to add any more oil. I only put in 1/4 of a cup, and then so much oil rendered from off of that meat, which is the reason why you want to cook it all in the same pan. All of that right there is flavor. So I'm not going to add any more oil. So now we can move on to the next step, which is frying off our red onion. You want to make sure that your onions get to be a nice dark brown color, okay? This is all about building flavor. Alrighty, now that our onions are looking absolutely beautiful, this is the coloring that we want on them. We're going to go on ahead and we're going to add in our tomato paste. You want to cook off this tomato paste. This process can take anywhere, again, between another 5 to 6 minutes. This is going to build in a lot of flavor, so please do not skip this step. And make sure that you are continuously mixing. Make sure that you've gone in and reduced the temperature on this so that it does not burn. And I'm now going to go in and add in an additional 4 tablespoons of the vegetable oil. Just 4 tablespoons, y'all, not too much more. And just remember, you guys, as you're mixing this and cooking it, if you feel like it's starting to dry out, you can always add in a 1/2 tablespoon of the vegetable oil at a time. Remember, I'm not trying to necessarily tell you that you're not going to be using a lot of oil in this recipe. I'm just simply trying to get you all to understand that it's far easier to add in oil than to remove it. You don't want this to be, and you don't want this to end up just being a big pool of vegetable oil. So I just find that it's easier to just gradually add it in as I, feel fit. I'm now going to add in my seasonings, which is 2 large chicken Maggi bouillon cubes, a 1/2 tablespoon of the thyme, and a 1/2 tablespoon of the curry powder. I like to do this just simply because I feel like it helps toast up the seasoning. So just give it all a good mix. This beautiful, beautiful deep red color is exactly what you're looking for. There's going to be so much flavor imparted in this by taking the time to really fry off that tomato paste. And you can also see nothing is burning at the bottom because I'm continuously mixing. You do not want any of that tomato paste to burn. You can now go in and add in our delicious tomato sauce. Our puree, I should say. And give this a good mix. We're also now going to allow this to cook for an additional 5 to 10 minutes. I'm telling y'all, sometimes good cooking, baby, takes time. And you just got to accept that. Give this a good mix. This has been cooking for roughly about 5 minutes. I'm going to go in and add in a little over, I would say about 1.5 cups of that residual beef stock from earlier. Add that right on in and give that a good mix. This is looking absolutely fabulous. So I'm now going to go in and add in all of that delicious beef and give that a nice mix. I'm now going to add in 3 bay leaves, put the lid on this, reduce the temperature, and let it go for about 20 to 30 minutes. This has now been cooking for roughly about 30 to 35 minutes, to be quite frank. I've gone in and I've mixed it occasionally to make sure that nothing's sticking at the bottom, but my God, you guys. It is just, the flavor is coming through so seriously. Like I said, I'm going to be serving mine with some basmati rice. But now we're going to add in that beef stew, just like that. My God. And that right there, my friends, is how I make my Nigerian style stewed beef. Serve with basmati rice, some fried plantain. Enjoy the recipe. Got me the rice. Look at that. The plantain, the basmati rice, our beef stew. Here we go. Sometimes I'd be shocking the hell out of myself, honey.